Azariah, Uzziah, of Judah. In the 27th year of Jeroboam king of Israel, Azariah son of Amaziah became king in Judah. He was 16 years old when he began his rule, and he was king for 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jecoliah. She was from Jerusalem. He did well in the eyes of God, following in the footsteps of his father Amaziah. But he also failed to get rid of the local sects and religion shrines. They continued to be popular with the people. God afflicted the king with a bad skin disease until the day of his death. He lived in the palace but no longer acted as king. His son Jotham ran the government and ruled the country. The rest of the life and times of Azariah, everything he accomplished, is written in the Chronicles of the kings of Judah. Azariah died and was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. Jotham his son was king after him. Zechariah of Israel. In the 38th year of Azariah king of Judah, Zechariah son of Jeroboam became king over Israel in Samaria. He lasted only 6 months. He lived a bad life before God, no different from his ancestors. He continued in the line of Jeroboam son of Nebat, who led Israel into a life of sin. Shallum son of Jabesh conspired against him, assassinated him in public view, and took over as king. The rest of the life and times of Zechariah is written plainly in the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. That completed the word of God that was given to Jehu, namely, for 4 generations your sons will sit on the throne of Israel. Zechariah was the 4th. Shallum of Israel. Shallum son of Jabesh became king in the 39th year of Azariah king of Judah. He was king in Samaria for only a month. Menahem son of Gadi came up from Tirzah to Samaria. He attacked Shallum son of Jabesh and killed him. He then became king. The rest of the life and times of Shallum and the account of the conspiracy are written in the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. Menahem of Israel. Using Tirzah as his base, Menahem opened his reign by smashing Tifsah, devastating both the town and its suburbs because they didn't welcome him with open arms. He savagely ripped open all the pregnant women. In the 39th year of Azariah king of Judah, Menahem son of Gadi became king over Israel. He ruled from Samaria for 10 years. As far as God was concerned, he lived an evil life. Sin for sin, he repeated the sins of Jeroboam son of Nebat, who led Israel into a life of sin. Then Tiglath-Pileser III king of Assyria showed up and attacked the country. But Menahem made a deal with him. He bought his support by handing over about 37 tons of silver. He raised the money by making every landowner in Israel pay 50 shekels to the king of Assyria. That satisfied the king of Assyria, and he left the country. The rest of the life and times of Menahem, everything he did, is written in the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. Menahem died and joined his ancestors. His son Pekahiah became the next king. Pekahiah of Israel. In the 50th year of Azariah king of Judah, Pekahiah son of Menahem became king of Israel. He ruled in Samaria for 2 years. In God's eyes he lived an evil life. He stuck to the old sin tracks of Jeroboam son of Nebat, who led Israel into a life of sin. And then his military aide Pekah son of Remaliah conspired against him, killed him in cold blood while he was in his private quarters in the royal palace in Samaria. He also killed Argob and Ariah. 50 Gadites were in on the conspiracy with him. After the murder he became the next king. The rest of the life and times of Pekahiah, everything he did, is written in the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. Pekah of Israel. In the 52nd year of Azariah king of Judah, Pekah son of Remaliah became king of Israel in Samaria. He ruled for 20 years. In God's view he lived an evil life. He didn't deviate so much as a hair's breadth from the path laid down by Jeroboam son of Nebat, who led Israel into a life of sin. During the reign of Pekah king of Israel, Tiglath-Pileser III king of Assyria invaded the country. He captured Ijon, Abel Beth-Maachah, Janoah, Kadesh, Hazor, Gilead, Galilee, the whole country of Naphtali, and took everyone captive to Assyria. But then Hoshea son of Elah mounted a conspiracy against Pekah son of Remaliah. He assassinated him and took over as king. This was in the 20th year of Jotham son of Uzziah. The rest of the life and times of Pekah, everything he did, is written in the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. Jotham of Judah. In the 2nd year of Pekah son of Remaliah king of Israel, Jotham son of Uzziah became king in Judah. He was 25 years old when he became king and reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jerusha daughter of Zadok. He acted well in God's eyes, following in the steps of his father Uzziah. But he didn't interfere with the traffic to the neighborhood sects and religion shrines. They continued, as popular as ever. The construction of the high gate to the temple of God was his work. The rest of the life and times of Jotham, the record of his work, is written in the Chronicles of the kings of Judah. It was during these years that God began sending Rezin king of Aram and Pekah son of Remaliah to attack Judah. Jotham died and joined his ancestors. They buried him in the family cemetery in the city of David. His son Ahaz was the next king. Ahaz of Judah. In the 17th year of Pekah son of Remaliah, Ahaz son of Jotham became king of Judah. Ahaz was 20 years old when he became king, and he ruled for 16 years in Jerusalem. He didn't behave in the eyes of his God. He wasn't at all like his ancestor David. Instead, he followed in the track of the kings of Israel. He even indulged in the outrageous practice of passing his son through the fire, a truly abominable act he picked up from the pagans God had earlier thrown out of the country. He also participated in the activities of the neighborhood sects and religion shrines that flourished all over the place. Then Rezin king of Aram and Pekah son of Remaliah king of Israel ganged up against Jerusalem, throwing a siege around the city, but they couldn't make further headway against Ahaz. At about this same time, and on another front, the king of Edom recovered the port of Elath and expelled the men of Judah. The Edomites occupied Elath and have been there ever since. Ahaz sent envoys to Tiglath-Pileser king of Assyria with this message: "I'm your servant and your son. Come and save me from the heavy-handed invasion of the king of Aram and the king of Israel. They're attacking me right now." Then Ahaz robbed the treasuries of the palace and the temple of God of their gold and silver and sent them to the king of Assyria as a bribe. The king of Assyria responded to him. He attacked and captured Damascus. He deported the people to Nineveh as exiles. Rezin he killed. King Ahaz went to meet Tiglath-Pileser king of Assyria in Damascus. The altar in Damascus made a great impression on him. He sent back to Uriah the priest a drawing and set of blueprints of the altar. Uriah the priest built the altar to the specifications that King Ahaz had sent from Damascus. By the time the king returned from Damascus, Uriah had completed the altar. The minute the king saw the altar, he approached it with reverence and arranged a service of worship with a full course of offerings, whole burnt offerings with billows of smoke, grain offerings, libations of drink offerings, the sprinkling of blood from the peace offerings, the works. But the old bronze altar that signaled the presence of God he displaced from its central place and pushed it off to the side of his new altar. Then King Ahaz ordered Uriah the priest, "From now on offer all the sacrifices on the new altar, the great altar, morning whole burnt offerings, evening grain offerings, the king's whole burnt offerings and grain offerings, the people's whole burnt offerings and grain offerings, and also their drink offerings. Splash all the blood from the burnt offerings and sacrifices against this altar. The old bronze altar will be for my personal use." The priest Uriah followed King Ahaz's orders to the letter. Then King Ahaz proceeded to plunder the temple furniture of all its bronze. He stripped the bronze from the temple furnishings, even salvaged the 4 bronze oxen that supported the huge basin, the sea, and set the sea unceremoniously on the stone pavement. Finally, he removed any distinctive features from within the temple that were offensive to the king of Assyria. The rest of the life and times of Ahaz is written in the Chronicles of the kings of Judah. Ahaz died and was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. His son Hezekiah became the next king.